Hey, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today's show, we got Clinton Portis, former Hurricane running back, in my opinion, Hall of Fame college running back, but also NFL Denver Broncos draft pick, was in my class in 2002. So we're going to sit down and talk to him a little bit about everything in current today's football. There's also a topic about the best receiving room in college football history. Clinton Portis wants to weigh in on that one, but we got to talk about Stefan Diggs. Talking about receivers, we're going to open the show up. We're going to talk about Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs hit the media again. The Bills lose for a fourth time. Sounds familiar, right? Stefan Diggs has an outburst about his teammate, his quarterback. Sounds familiar, right? I think there's something more to this, though, with Stefan Diggs, and something that's not fair when you look at his actions. We'll talk about that next, coming up on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. That's FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. And make sure you understand, we're going to have some RJs, parlays coming up, because there's a lot of parlays out there. Guy just won $5 bet, won $70K. I mean, what better parlay is that? And I'm gonna have some for you. But like I said on today's show, we're gonna talk a little bit about Stefan Diggs, the Buffalo Bills, and why he is being demonized, in my opinion, incorrectly. I think the energy is pointed at the wrong person. I think that people are misinterpreting what happened. But we have to jump into that. And then, of course, we got Clinton Portis coming up in the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment, going to talk about his life, everything he's been through, but also football career. One of the best running backs I know. Got a chance to be drafted with him. So we hung out together at the Rose Bowl, did some pictures throughout the years. We've hung out and done some things together. So excited to get Clinton Portis on the show. And then we are going to make sure we hit this daily 3 because, hey, Sam's thrown out some great questions for this one. So I'm looking forward to it. And remember, you can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Amazon Fire and Roku. Just go to your TV, Amazon Fire and Roku, download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app. You'll get all of our shows, all of our videos updated daily. Well, as I bring Sam Ekstrom to the show, my producer, Sam, right off the bat, Stefan Diggs, we know what happens. Buffalo Bills lose. Stefan Diggs leaves the locker room before the coaches even make it up the tunnel. One of his players runs out and gets him. I don't know, from the parking lot, hallway, or what. Hey, man, you got to come back. That's not the way you want to end this season. Stefan Diggs comes back, which clearly means, you know what, he knows he's really upset and not happy with what happened when you look at the way the game ended. But here's where it goes. You look at Stefan Diggs' message when he was able to tweet it out, and you'll see it. He said, "1, want me to be okay with losing? ? Nah. He's like, want me to be okay with the level of our play when it's not up to our standard? ? Nah. It's easy to criticize my reaction more than the result." It's true. It's true. Now, one, could it have been handled better? Of course. I'm always a proponent of there's always a better way to handle things. We're human beings. We're in the flesh. Nobody is perfect. There's one perfect person, and that's God. None of us are perfect. So when you think about Stefan Diggs just making a little bit of an emotional mistake, it happens. In sports, guys do it all the time. And this is where I go with this. Aaron Rodgers early in the season had a similar outburst, went off on his teammates, said that some of these guys aren't studying. They need to play better, X, Y, and Z. Tom Brady, we've seen him throw down the tablet, get pissed off, tell the guys they're not playing well, saying this team is not this, and these guys don't want to do this, and blah, blah. And we've seen this happen before. We've seen these guys. And so could it be position? Could it be people expect the quarterback to act that way? People expect the quarterback to have that type of winning, wanting to really get the most out of his teammates. Is it that Stefon Diggs is because he's a receiver? And you look at past receiver outbursts, Terrell Owens, him, wanting to leave a team, not happy what's going on. Him and Donovan McNabb getting into it on the sideline. They're making jokes about it later after a touchdown to kind of play up to the fact that there was drama. The fact that he left Minnesota under different or under similar circumstances. So there's a lot to it when you look at past versus reaction. So past resume versus current reaction. I get it. But if Stefon Diggs, in my opinion, if Josh Allen had been so mad after that game that he just left, teammate brought him back, he stayed in there, and then he took off, I don't really think people would have been saying, oh, here we go, another spoiled athlete did it. Like, nobody would have said that about Josh Allen. Nobody would have called him. They'd be like, man, he really wants to win, man. Like, he's so sick and tired of losing to Joe Burrow, losing to Patrick Mahomes. Like, Josh Allen is a competitor. He wants it. That's where I think if you reverse the roles and that's Josh Allen looking at Stefon Diggs, like, man, come on, man, you're running the wrong routes. What are you doing? Like, we practice this. I know you're a great receiver. Like, Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen are friends. He knows Josh Allen is a great quarterback. We've seen Josh Allen be a great quarterback. That was just the frustration of what are you looking at out there? What's going on? And that happens. There's a difference, in my opinion, to what Stefon Diggs and what DeAndre Hopkins did to Kyler Murray when he's saying, Kyler Murray, like, what are you seeing out there? How come you can't see me? Like, what's going on? There's a big difference there. One, the Cardinal standard this year was not of the Buffalo Bills. And that was true. Like, I'm out of here frustration. Stefon Diggs was more of like, I want to win so bad, man. I'm sick and tired of losing this way. I'm sick and tired of feeling like we're going to be in the Super Bowl and then we don't make it. That's my thoughts on Stefon Diggs, and I think it's improperly he's been improperly demonized. Like, I don't think it was. I think that's just a guy being a competitor. He didn't curse anybody out. He wasn't rude. He just knew like I got to get out of here. Like I cannot believe this happened again. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. There's probably a double standard that's wrong. Like, he should not be ridiculed for this in a vacuum. Because this is an emotional time. Like, the hopes and dreams, the expectations, they're all on the line. Stefon Diggs has had a pretty long career now, 8 years.
Yeah.
And he has not won a Super Bowl. And he's had some really good teams. So I get his frustration. I guess maybe people are bringing in his priors a little too much into this. Like, the Vikings trade saga.
Correct.
Diggs kind of forced himself out of Minnesota. And I kind of get it because he didn't like the offense. Not really sure how he felt about the quarterback. I think that the perception of this for me, Ron, it changes if Diggs becomes disgruntled in Buffalo and forced his way out. What better situation could you have? If this is just an isolated outburst, that's fine. That happens. If he is somehow upset about this to the point where he would want out of Buffalo, then I would look at it a little differently. But if they come back next year, yeah, it's a moment in time. People are vulnerable. That's fine. I just don't think there's any reason for him to think that this is like the end of him in Buffalo. I think this can still work with him and Josh Allen and Sean McDermott.
Yeah, and people forget there's only 2 teams that go to Super Bowl. There's only 2. There's only 1 Super Bowl winner every year. So the odds of teams even doing what the Buffalo Bills did with like this much success, constantly, down to the last 4, last 8, they're right there, time and time again, and they just can't get over the hump. That's where people get a little nervous too, though. Like, how long can we really sit on this cliff before we fall off? You look at the Buffalo Bills of the past, 4 straight Super Bowls, and they lost. So then it fell off the cliff. Players change, contracts have to be renegotiated, players want out, contracts end, guys retire. Like there's a lot, coaches leave. I think that's the key. And it's so funny when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, granted, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Like, he's a magician the way he finds a way to get back into the win column. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been in the playoffs a bunch. He's competed in the AFC North constantly. He's always kind of right there. His players always play hard for him. They're always gritty. They always have a chance, and they're rebuilding as far as quarterback has been Roethlisberger. If you were to put the Pittsburgh Steelers situation in a lot of these other organizations, they probably would have fired Tomlin. They would have. They probably would have fired Tomlin because they're like, man, come on, like you're mediocre. But the owners there, the Rooneys, and I love the Rooneys. I grew up with the Rooneys, And I love their thought process of this is a job. Like, you don't fire the CEO of your company every 4 years because you just have a down tick in the stock market. You're never going to get there. You have to have somebody who's built a culture, continue to build it, and then there's going to be a little bit downtime. Then you build it back up. You look at Bill Cowher, Chuck Noll, and now Mike Tomlin. The Steelers aren't a carousel of coaches, whereas a lot of these organizations, I forgot the dollar amount, but it was an astronomical amount of money going to coaches that are no longer coaching this year, who owners are still paying. And I forgot how much it was, but it was a lot. It was like $500 million. It was something ridiculous where he's like, this is the amount of money we're paying coaches that are no longer on staffs, but we're, as owners, you guys are still paying those. It was like 400. I think it was like $400 million. It was something stupid that they still owe coaches that are no longer on their payroll. And that's
Zimmer's getting some of that.
Exactly. And that's what what's his name? Roger Goodell was trying to, because he is on behalf of the owners. He was trying to get the owners to understand you can't keep firing these coaches. But I hope that more coaches understand what the Rooneys are up to. I hope they allow these coaches to grow, because you can't just keep firing coaches and think that that's going to be the way to get this done. Like, it's not. You're going to end up maybe having a little bit of success. Like the Vikings, they're going to fall off probably for a little bit, not badly, but I think they're going to come back to the pack. They're going to hit reality. They're going to make player changes, and then they're going to have to regroup. So again, I think when you look at the Buffalo Bills, I don't know what they're thinking or what they're looking for, but they have it. They got Josh Allen. They got Stefon Diggs. They got James Cook, who's going to be a really good running back. So I think that's going to be the key. But coming up next, we got Clinton Portis joining me in the Hang with Ron Johnson segment. Looking forward to sitting down with Clinton Portis. As you know, played for the Miami Hurricanes, played for the Denver Broncos, draft pick, was in our 2002 draft class, which I still think is one of the best classes out there. Make sure you check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube every day, following every Twins, Vikings, Wild, or Wolves game. Our Locked On team hosts are broadcasting live with team insiders. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube. And we have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. The NFL playoffs championship weekend is ahead of us. I am so excited, and we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On. They're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. I'm looking at the weekly props right now on FanDuel. How about the tight end special? Travis Kelce, 75-plus receiving yards, and George Kittle, 50-plus receiving yards at +300. I'm smashing that the way those tight ends have been playing. FanDuel is great. They've got all the lines, all the leagues, all the sports. It's props, it's over-unders, it's spreads. And it's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, here's what you do. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Place a $5 bet, get $150 in free bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
And as promised, Clinton Portis, former Miami Hurricane, former Denver Bronco. Clinton Portis, thank you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. As everybody knows, career, one of the greatest running backs I know, almost 10,000 yards rushing, 75 touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy, man. So when you look back at that, almost 10,000 yards rushing, 75 touchdowns, what kind of jumps out you the most about your career?
Not getting to that 10,000 yard mark. I think for the work that was put in to not realize the benchmark was 10,000, in my final 2 seasons, I got hurt. I think I played 4 or 5 games my last 2 years, which that easily, if you just saying 1,000 yards a year, those 2 years, that puts you, under 12,000, which would have pretty much been the benchmark and a walk into the Hall of Fame. And instead, we're sitting here with the limbo, of people that didn't realize or see the impact of my career or know much about me, where it's a topic of conversation. Whereas for us and the people who lived that era, the work I put in,
Oh yeah, man. Like I definitely know. Like I remember we played against you guys a couple of times, Ravens, Broncos. When you look at 1,500 yards as a rookie and 15 touchdowns, 15 again, 1,600 yards the next year, 14 touchdowns in the Pro Bowl. You look at 1,300 yards, 1,500 yards again, and 11 touchdowns. I mean, that's a workhorse. You don't see that today. You got 1,300 yards, basically 11 touchdowns, 1,500 yards again, and 9 touchdowns. And then you're right, 5 games, 227 yards, injured. And so I think a lot of people misinterpret. And then, 2009, same thing, only half the season, 500 yards rushing. And so that's easily 1,000-yard season. You look in 5 games, you multiply that by 3, that's probably another 700, 800 yards there. When you look at receiving, though, I do remember, your screen game and some of the things you did. You were before your time. I remember you talking about scanning in the backfield, being able to block and understand what scan protection is. What made you so cerebral where, now everybody talks about running backs being able to scan the entire line and help out and pick up blocks, but you guys were doing it in Miami well before a lot of NFL guys were doing it.
Coach Don Solinger, it was, if you couldn't block, you wasn't touching the field. He said, every running back I got can run the ball. That's the reason they're here.
Yeah.
So it was a stickler on learning to block. And you get into the NFL, once you get to the NFL, everything is kind of assignment based, assignment oriented. So it was one of those where you got to know your assignment. I can remember in college missing a block against Florida State when I first got my opportunity to get in, and that was the only play I had. They took me right out of the game. So I think that's what set the competition. What gave the gap in competition was, what can you do that the other guy can't do? All running backs can run the ball on that level. So learning how to block, and then it became personal. It became one of those challenges. Like, man, y'all get to hit me all game long, so I want to get my lick back, So anytime you got the opportunity to get your lick back, you wanted it, But looking back now, I would say my injuries basically came from blocking. My right shoulder blocking, my left shoulder making the tackle against Cincinnati, my right hand that was stiff arming, but 2 out of the 3 injuries that set me back came from blocking. You look at it and everybody like, oh man, you're one of the best blocking backs of all time, but they don't take that into consideration when they look at those numbers. For me, I would say today, man, I would have missed every last one of them blocks. I would have got out the way, just to go and get those other 2,000-3,000 yards. If I could do it all over again, boy, I move to the side. Tell the QB, Olay, they coming.
So, because who's your quarterback? Was that Jay Cutler, or who was your quarterback in Denver?
Man, I had Brian Greasy and Jake Plummer.
All right, so you would have just left Brian Greasy out to dry.
I'd have left them all out to dry. The line didn't block for them. The O-line got paid for blocking. If they miss their blocks, I miss mine. So it just would have been one of those situations where that blocking, you look back and you say, man, I had 500 blocks. That was 500 collisions that I wish I would have avoided, at this point, to see where it's at. And then you look at running backs today, they're not even asked to block. They don't have to chip.
Right.
They don't have to scan. It's just pretty much free release. Hurry up, get into the passing game, try to get open and create a mismatch. So if I had it to do all over again, well, I'd have been in the passing game.
When you look at the Washington Commanders, your season there, one of your seasons there, you had 60 targets, 400 yards there. Your rookie year, you have 50 targets. When you think about today's NFL, today's running back, why are the offenses, because that was unheard of back then for a running back to get, because like it was like Roger Craig, and then it'd be like, Marshall Faulk. And then, then you got Clinton Portis. It wasn't every, like I played with Jamal Lewis, Big Maul. Jamal wasn't in the passing game. That's what Chester Taylor, your boy Chester Taylor, that's when he would come in and he would be the passing back. You were one of the guys that you were on first down and third down as a back. And when you think about Hall of Fame, there's not a lot of backs that did what you did. How do you start to shape the narrative? Because there's a lot of Miami guys, like it took Edrin a while. It's taken Reggie Wayne a while, which I don't understand that one. That was weird to me. What is it about these stats sometimes that people don't just look at the body of work and how dominant that player was?
Well, when you look at Reggie and Dre, Hester, I think this is their second year eligibility.
Yeah.
Two of them will get in this year.
Okay.
Weezy a dog, Dre a dog. All of those guys are unbelievable. Were unbelievable teammates. So when you look at those guys, their time is coming. For me, I think it's just one of those situations where the backs that you praise. If you look at the lineage of backs behind LaDainian, Michael Turner, Sproles, like they were the third down backs. LT came in first, second down, did his thing. He was in the game when the ball came to him. AP, same way. A lot of those guys with all of that talent, when they were in the game, the ball came to them. I'm in the game blocking straight hand and doing stuff that, again, if I knew then what I know now, straight hand would have had some more sacks. OC would have had all of those guys, because I would have got out of their way. There's no reason why, as a running back, I'm blocking the best DN, or the best D lineman, or the best player on the defensive side of the ball. And I used to take that as a challenge. Like, man, I want this action. Like I'm asking for this action. Getting my chip in just to get, because if that's your guy, I know if I punish him, it kind of weakens your mentality, your mindset, your defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted that trouble. But now, man, them people have so many more sacks because I get out the way and start clapping, like, throw it to me. Let me get it.
Throw that bubble. Throw the bubble screen.
I'm wide open. Open.
So I just saw you were on the pivot with Ryan Clark, and Ryan Clark's a friend of the show, been on. But when you sat down with Ryan Clark, man, there were some very like pivotal moments in the show. You saw your heart really come out, man. I've known you, man, since college days. Hanging out in California, all the way up until we were getting our degrees at Fordham to get our MBA. When you look at sitting down with like Ryan Clark, though, and Fred Taylor and all those guys, man, what did you learn from the pivot?
Well, I think those guys do a great job at allowing their guests to share their side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
The media don't give you the full story, and it's rare that we get to speak out. I'm looking at the Kwame Brown episode, and you look at Kwame Brown, totally different. A lot of guys go into situations and they're at a disadvantage because of the situation, mm-hmm. and you don't realize the psyche that play on a kid's mind. And I always think about guys. I always say, be professional, be professional. That's the advice that Shannon Sharp or Rod Smith, those guys give you that advice. Be professional, be professional. And you don't really understand what be professional is. And mm-hmm. It's kind of one of those that you got to carry your image and your daily needs to match. Don't embarrass the organization, don't embarrass your family, don't embarrass yourself. And I keep ending up in situations that's like so unprofessional, but not really due to me. It's kind of a not knowing. And then when you share your side, people don't understand what you're dealing with, what you're going through, and they just want you to shut up and take it. Like like LeBron, like shut up and dribble. That's how they see us. That's how they view us. And it's just one of those situations, man. Wrong timing. To even be in that situation, not knowing, needing to know more, and not having it. You look at, you were in the league, how hard it is to get information that's needed. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to get a hold to anything that's really advantageous to us or that's ours. So it was just one of those situations, man. And to be able to grow through it and go through it, when you're chosen, it's like looking at the draft. I went in the second round, and I told the GMs, if you don't get me in the top 5, you won't get me, and all of a sudden I go in the second round, and I had to fight and I had to prove that I was worthy. the same situation. You know, you got to fight, prove worthy. You know, I think for anyone that knows me, you know what I'm into. You know what I stand on. I stand on principles. I don't steal, like never have, never will. So
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. You know, went through it. On the other side of it, live and learn. You know, got these kids. I'm affecting kids, trying to help these kids avoid the mistakes or the situations that I was in.
And when you think about, you know, you guys have something coming up with you and Tommy Harris called Dollars and Cents. And for those who want to check that out, it's going to be on the Revel platforms January 30th, starting at 7 p.m. And you guys are going to sit down and talk about money management in the NFL. You talk about guys that mismanage money, guys that get millions of dollars in 1 year. I mean, when you think about, because what people see is like contracts. And so I always tell young kids this, you know, I was a 4th round pick. So, you know, I didn't have that first, second round millions. You know, it took me 2 years to get to a million and a half, but then, you know, the marketing dollars come in, and then my third year, I got hurt. And so nobody tells you what to do with your money. Like, hey, you might want to start to save, or you might want to cut back on who you're helping out, whether it's paying for mom's car and house, whether it's, you know, one of your friends got a business and you've been helping them out, inserting cash into their business to help them stay going until they get theirs going. And nobody advises you on that. And then you have to either, you know, die by fire, or you blessed enough to figure it out and come out the other end with enough money to continue your life. And for me, I had to learn the hard way, you know, and I was blessed enough to be able to, you know, jump into commentating, jump into coaching. And so that helped me. But there's not a lot of players that stay connected where guys like me, you know, and you know that being connected, being in classes, we were in at Fordham, man, it brings you back to that locker room and it gets you energized, you're having fun. But when you look at that dollars and cents, man, what are you guys trying to put out into the ether for these young players and athletes and just America to understand where athletes go wrong?
Well, for the loss, I think a lot of guys give up. You know, after you lose, you give up. And playing sports, you know, man, a great season is 5 losses. You know, you're 11-5. You feel great. I mean, you took L's, and out of those, you know, that 11-5, those 16 games, how many of them did you perform well? You took L's within the game, you know. So bouncing back, you know, coming back, continuing to fight as long as you got breath in your body, man, and figuring it out. You know, everybody want to do it, or people get to the point they're so angry, they're so frustrated, and we disappear from the world. You know, we get into that depressed stage, and we get into that quiet, and we don't want to talk to anybody. And that's where your bounce back come from, you know, talking to somebody, figuring this thing out, and not giving up. And for us, I think the platform Rebel is giving us is one of those platforms to discuss the bumps and bruises, the aches and pains that's in the road. You know, on the opposite side is wins. It's wins in this, and you just got to get to your winning season to be able to experience it. I think so many young kids, you look at so many kids with this opportunity to get money, even with NILs, like at what point do you have a conversation? You know, where do you, if you're talking about guys who went from college to the NFL and mismanaged money, now you got guys in high school that's getting hundreds of dollars, that's immature, that's only becoming targets. Now you're becoming targets to people that's preying on you. You got women whose mindsets changing. You got all of these people who are looking at you as a 16, 17-year-old kid saying, how can I get my start with this guy? You know, and if this guy don't pan out, those people disappear, you know? So as an adult, as a 21-year-old, you don't understand that. So what you think is going to do to the psyche of these kids is getting NIL deals, is going to college. At what point do you have a conversation with them how to manage this money, like how to deal with this money? You're just getting a check every 2 weeks in college, and you can do what you want. What are you doing at this stage? Getting tattoos, jewelry, clothes, being fresh, like a nice whip or switching whips, like none of that is smart. None of that is an investment. But who's going to tell you that, and at what stage? Because your homeboys that's the same age as you, they happy to get a tattoo. Like, oh, what you getting the tattoos for us? So
Right.
they don't know. I think it's just getting younger and younger that we're getting taken advantage of, and you got to find a way. We gotta somehow, some way, increase the knowledge that's given to kids. And you're like, well, in high school, this boy can't read, and you're expecting him to figure out how to manage money, how to set himself up for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, when you look at, and for those that understand, Clinton Portis, one of the quarterbacks at the University of Miami, Jaden Rashada, who committed to Miami, reportedly $9.5 million NIL deal through various businesses, companies, car dealers. And so this is a kid that, like he's saying, 17 years old, and right out the gate, $400,000 to $500,000 of cash in his hand. How is he going to handle that when he doesn't have bills? It's just room and board is paid for by the school. Meals are paid for by the school. Travel is paid for by the school. That's just free cash money. And so, yeah, there's going to be situations where I hope this is a kid that's going to watch you guys this week and listen to the stories and understand I need to put this away. I need to put this in some kind of mutual fund. I need to be able to live off this for a while, because if college football is the end of it, quarterback is one of the hardest jobs to get to the NFL. I've seen a ton of time, and we had Joey Harrington with us in our deal at the rookie symposium. We had David Carr. You think about all the top quarterbacks who, don't become Peyton Manning. Like, everybody doesn't do that. You look at Ken Dorsey at Miami, who's now blessed enough to be an offensive coordinator, but football wasn't in the cards for him. So it's a lot of situations out there like that. And you brought this up, and so I got to talk about it. You talked about all the Hall of Famers. You talk about Reggie Wayne. You talk about Santana Moss. You look at Andre Davis. You talked about, or Andre Johnson. There was a tweet out there. I think ESPN, or I don't know who did it, but they said this is the best receiving core they've ever seen in one room, which was Ohio State. So they have Marvin Harrison Jr. They got Jackson Nigba. They have what's his name, Chris Olave from last year, and Garrett Wilson. And so when you think about that foursome, of course, then they talk about Alabama, but you play one of the best. And I kind of, text you about that to say, hey, just think about this one. When you look at those groups, you got Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Marshall kind of can put us on, he's in the NFL. So Chase and Jefferson definitely go to the top of the class. But what makes that Miami receiving core one of the best ever?
Well, just to give those guys their credit, those young guys they're game changers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chase and Jefferson, two of my favorite receivers in the NFL right now, along with Diggs, and just watching how those guys are elevating the game. But when you say Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, and Andre Johnson, a lot of people forget, Jeremy Shockey was a tight end for that. So if you give me that group, I'm taking them anytime. Reggie Wayne got a set of the best hands that you'll ever find. Santana Moss, unguardable. Imagine you had this style of football through Santana career. Like, you never would have caught him coming across the middle. And everybody high on Julian Edelman and all of these guys who kind of got put in a phase of football that wasn't physical. We came through where Ray Lewis can knock your head off, where the safety sitting back ready to punish you, where a lot of guys didn't want to go across the middle for that fact. And the NFL kind of opened it up. So you know what? For those guys who are afraid to go across the middle, we're going to allow you to go across the middle. No one can hit you. So think about somebody not being able to hit Santana coming across the middle. It would have been unreal. And then Andre Johnson, he created the dig route, if you ask me. Like, no other receivers was running that drag across the field. You knew where the ball was going. You knew he was getting it, that size, that speed, and he pulling away, doing the things that he's doing. So, and then Jeremy Shockey, like, come on, man, that was Gronk before Gronk. That was Kittle. That was all of these great tight ends. Now, Jeremy Shockey was the one. Jeremy Shockey was the one that created that. Kellen Winslow, Bubba Franks before him. Those guys were the one that came in with that swagger and that style and pizzazz, and I can go out here and play receiver before it became the thing to do. So when I look at those guys and just knowing the work ethic that they put in, although you can appreciate all the younger guys, their body of work isn't there, and the times is totally different. Like you're in the time of football that is just being slung around, but
Yeah.
when you look at Reggie, who had a great quarterback, Santana and Dre never had an outstanding quarterback to go out and put up the numbers that they put up and to become a household name. So I would always take those guys, even Shockey, having Manning. I think he got a chance to play with Breeze, but I would take those guys any day because I know the dog, I know the heart in them, I know the work that they put in, and every last one of them feel like they're the best.
We got one last one, Clinton Portis, before we jump into the daily three. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. We're going to give Clinton most of the time, and I'll pick up where he left off. Before we get in that, Clinton, man, I want to give you a chance, man. And I kind of told you this. Everybody loves to, like, I see these articles all the time where it's like, I'm going to pin a letter to my younger self, or I'm going to leave a voicemail for my younger self. If you could leave yourself a voicemail or a letter, or you can go back in time. I mean, you look at all these movies, the Avengers, all this stuff, they always somehow go back in time. If you can go back in time and leave yourself a message, what would you, everything you've been through, what would you tell yourself?
Probably enjoy it at the end. I think it's so much. We have so much going on while we're doing it that the stuff we do, we don't even enjoy it. So I would say enjoy it at the end. Like wait until this is over and then live life. It's hard to live life at the same time that you're engaged in creating life. So for the moments that we had on the field during your playing career, that should have been a longer appreciation for that moment. It's like you get out of that moment and now you got to share it, or now you want to celebrate it, and you want to party, you want to do all this. Like, man, this thing over at 30, 35, 40, and you got the rest of your life, and people I've been looking at this quote flying around that say the measurement of money and time, and you could always know how much money you got, but you never know when the time is over. So to value that time with that money, like when your playing day is over, then you live it up. You give it to the max, and so many of us just were in the moment, and you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know how it was going to end, when it was going to end. So it was like, boy, I'm embracing it every day. Whereas, knock on wood, you're fortunate enough to leave this game and your playing career, and that's when you go give it all you got. And people look at it like, oh man, you're 35 and you just not doing X, Y, Z, or trying to start a family or finding a good woman, all of that. Man, it's one of those situations that's hard. I don't think if you find the woman early enough in your life, then you look at all the divorces and all the separations from guys who thought they had it figured out. The guys who were taken under by the system because of the divorce, and you done gave up half. You're like, man, dang, I thought I did it right. Just wait.
Right.
Just wait. And until you 100% believe in something or know that's what it is that you want to do, even with investments, like just let the money sit, let the money pile up. You don't have to get into an investment. Your investment is yourself, invest in your body, stay healthy, stay on the field, and get those checks, because even in business, it's hard to find those checks that we got in the NFL. Even when you win, you're talking about a win in business. If you get 250, 500 grand, you like, oh boy, I just struck. But in the NFL, you getting 2.5 to 5 million. So enjoy that, embrace that. And when you get your opportunity, when you get out and you get a chance to settle down, that's when it'll all make sense.
Yeah, man, that's big, man. I appreciate you. Coming up next, me, Clinton, and Sam's going to join us. We're going to have the daily three. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. But please remember, when you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, you're getting endless Vikings talk with local experts. Subscribe to the free Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find all of our videos on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. We have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, coming up, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Take it away, Sam.
All right, Clinton, I got a 3-pack of questions here. Starting out with this, you played for some unbelievable teams at Miami with loaded rosters. I want to know from you, is there one player who stood out to you with all that talent, who stood out to you athletically speaking?
One player, that's all I get to talk about?
You can talk about a couple, I guess. That's fine.
If it was, if it was just one player that I had to say that stood out, it would have been Ed Reed. Ed Reed was one of those guys that you seen the work in way before the NFL got a chance to give him his dues. But the Frank Gore, the freshman Frank Gore, a young Philip Buchanan, Andre Johnson being the specimen that he was. Like, man, we had so many talented guys that can run, that could do everything, Santana being able to dunk. And, our basketball games were like crazier and more competitive than football was for us. That team would leave the practice field and go into the gym for another 5 or 6 hours. And, it's fists being thrown and everything else. So just the talent alone for a lot of those guys just made you elevate your level of play.
Yeah, I'd say for me, watching those guys, man, like for me, I guess at Minnesota, it was always, of course, Marion Barber. Like Marion Barber is one of the most gifted young running backs I've ever seen as a freshman. He was a freshman my senior year. So watching Marion Barber come in, I was like, this kid, like day one, I was like, this kid's got it. And I think it was Michigan State. Like I was blocking and he ran somebody over at Michigan State. I don't remember who it was, but it was the loudest car crash type of sound I've ever heard. And so, and Clinton knows, like when you're blocking downfield, one, you're trying to get out the way because you don't want to get rolled up on. So I like jumped out the way out of bounds and I look and Marion is still standing up. Like the DB is on the ground, Marion standing up and kind of like walks out of bounds. And I was like, man, this dude is a brick wall. Like he was just physically gifted. And then to talk about Miami, I mean, in that time, we were all in college around the same time. Like I can't lie. Like, and I told Reggie this when I got to coach him with the Colts, like watching him and Santana Moss. I mean, it was like ridiculous. Like the routes, the concepts, like they had pro level concepts in college where a lot of colleges keep it kind of basic, where you look at some of their choice routes. I mean, you don't see a lot of teams running choice routes with a receiver in the slot. That's kind of new now. Like they were doing that in Miami. So I remember when I finally got a chance to, be around Santana when he was with the Washington football team, and I went there for a little bit, and just, hearing those guys talk about it, it was amazing to me. And then the work Reggie put into it as a coach, watching him put that work in, I'm like, it came from somewhere. And Reggie would always say, like, man, in Miami, man, we had to do this. Like we had to learn, we had to compete. And so for people that thought Reggie just went out there and went, like that dude watched film, he studied. So, his athleticism was out there, but man, both of those dudes mentally too, man, they were always trying to figure out the next step in a route. Or like Santana was always trying to come up with a new route. Like, man, I'm gonna do a post corner post. Like he was doing stuff that people now try to do where he was already putting it in. Like, man, if I hit this dude with a 1-step corner, I got him on the post again. And so you now see it and they celebrate it when you see Diggs and some of these guys do it. But man, Santana was doing that way back then. What you got next, Sam?
Yeah, Clinton, I'm wondering, when you watch the NFL today, is there a certain team that you watch and say, I would be a good fit in that offensive scheme?
A certain team, if I had to pick a team to be a good fit for, I would hands down go play with one of these quarterbacks, the Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. Like, man, it would be a no-brainer to go and play. The way these guys throw the ball around in the running lanes, you would never. I faced 8-9 men in the box my entire career. You're talking about having a 6 or 5 or a 6-man box. Man, are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's the one thing I would say for Clinton, the offense, and I thought about this too. Now, selfishly, I would say, you know what, the 49ers. When you look at the 49ers do, the way they move guys around, put them in the slot, put them in the backfield, jet sweeps.
Quarterback not as dangerous with the 49ers. Though.
Correct. And it's going to be another quarterback you probably don't think is dangerous either. But I look at the Minnesota Vikings offense and Dalvin Cook. Like, I would like that one for me with you. And
like, I love Dalvin Cook. I love what Coach Shanahan is doing out in San Fran, and I played in that system. But to be in a system that no one can come and drop a safety into the box. Like, if you look at the Chiefs, I look at the Chiefs running backs. Like, how do you not have 7 yards a carry? Nobody. Right. You're like the fourth option on this team because you're thinking of prior, before Tariq Hill was gone. You got to stop Hill. You got to stop Kelsey. You're worrying about stopping Mahomes. So you're number 4. Nobody game plans for number 4. It's kind of like, okay, we're gonna tackle him. No way in hell. No way.
Well, selfishly, I love to see you in that offense because they try to run the screen game a lot. And again, like I said, like I think Kevin O'Connell, that's the one thing he's missing is a back that can do it all 3 downs. I think they're trying to find this 2-back system. But yeah, no, I'd love to see you in that one.
Got a dog in Dalvin Cook, man. Learn how to use him.
True.
Use him the correct way. You're trying to play through Jefferson and Thielen, and those guys are really good. But you know how great Jefferson would be if you just bring that safety in the box, like commit to the run, where you force him to commit to the run, go play action, and work to their advantage. I think Dalvin Cook is still a man on that team, although Justin Jefferson is taking over and he's going to be the man for quite some time. You could scheme to get him in mismatches. Go play action to Justin Jefferson's side. The safety got to come down or he got to bail out. If he bail out, hand it off. If he come down, throw it. It's simple. Football is real simple.
Hey, you heard it from the man himself. What you got? What's the last one, Sam?
Last one, Clinton. You mentioned early on that you wish you would have hit that 10,000-yard mark in your career. I'm curious if there is a statistical accomplishment that you have in your career, whether it's college or pro, that you are especially proud of.
To look back at it, it's not the yards, it's not the, it's not the highlights that everyone would be like, oh man, look at this. One day I think I was bored and doing some research. And I said, you know what, man, I want to look at how many fumbles I had, and I think it kind of came from one of my partners, Sif Dog, always putting up posts about me fumbling on the goal line. And something just said like, man, how many fumbles did I have? And I think the guy, I think I Googled least fumbles in the NFL, and Marcus Allen popped up, and I think he had the least with like 23 fumbles over his career. And I'm like, damn, I wonder how many I got. And I went and did the math, and I was at 25. And I said, like, that's one of those stats that you look at, and you like, I had 25 fumbles, and I got how many carries? 3,000 carries, and I got 25 fumbles. When people look at Hall of Fame, when it's a lot of stuff that I think should be taken into consideration that's not. And that would definitely be one. How often do you get this pill up? Despite all the yards and everything else you're doing, how often you give up this pill? And that's the stat I think I'll always be proud of, because you look at people, that's one that's going to be hard to be broken, So I love the fact that I could always stamp and stand on that.
Yeah, for me, like I said, my NFL days were short, so I always go back to college, and I was similar to that, like drops. Like I think I had one drop my entire college career because I was willing to take a hit, and looking back on some of that, I'm like, I wish they had changed that, because I know my knees, I used to get killed. Like when you're 230 pounds, DBs are not going to hit you up high. Like they would just shoot my legs out. So I know that was probably part of it. But no, when I look at this list of the Big Tens and college football's, receivers or whatever, touchdowns, and again, a lot of guys left after 3 years. But you look at Braylon Edwards, Anthony Carter, Chris Olave, David Boston, Tyler Johnson, Desmond Howard, and then me. And so I'm like, I can say, and then Chris Carter now, and me and Chris Carter was on the show, and we joked about that after, but I had more college touchdowns than Chris Carter. So even though he killed in the NFL, but I think for that one, that's the one where I tell people all the time, this business that I do now has nothing to do what I did in the NFL. Like, this is just me talking, me doing my thing. I mean, remember me and Clinton, he called me out on this. We were on a show, national show, early in the morning. And after the show, Clinton's like, man, you gonna let me talk? And in that moment, I was like, you know what, man? Like, I was like, I got it. So that's why today I let Clinton talk. I let him get it back. So that was my payback. I'm paying it back to you. Because that morning when they started talking about players and years played as far as my dad, and I kind of got into my feelings about my dad, and when he died, he ended up getting, we had his brain donated. He did have CTE grade 3, which 4 is the worst, so he was right up there. And just the way the NFL acts about injuries and things players need after they're done playing, it amazes me that these billionaires don't understand throwing out $100 million is nothing to them. If they do it as a group, that's a couple $1 billion to be able to create a fund to financially support players that need help, whether it's medical equipment, whether it's MRIs. Like my knees to this day, like I don't complain a lot, and I tell people this all the time. Herniated disc in my back, my 3rd year, played through it. Torn my MCL, played. I shouldn't have played, but I played 9 games on it before I had surgery. Did it again with the Bears. Got it scoped after the fact, like all that kind of stuff. And I don't complain. I go get MRIs. I do all my stuff with my knee. I get it checked out. But it amazes me that the NFL is like, hey, after 5 years, we're done. Like we don't have to take care of you. And so I know Clinton has some words on that too. A lot of players do. I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear it on Dollars and Cents, man. Before we get out of here, is there any one last thing you want to say before we take off?
I just think, to piggyback off of what you said, they give you that health care 5 years after you're done playing. But when you look at accessing any of your money, it's 15, 20 years after you're done playing. So why not switch it around? Why not switch it around? And you really want to help these guys, switch that around. Give them, hey, here go money for 5 years after you're done. Like, switch that around and really give guys an opportunity. Because a lot of guys, just like yourself, like you said, I don't complain, I don't say much, but when you're sitting around and you're messed up, something is wrong, your memory isn't right, your back is aching or your hands, whatever it is, and no one wants to listen, no one understands, and all of these people judge you. I go to the doctor and he says, you know what? I think I got like 2,000 pages to look at for your injury report. What regular person got 2,000 pages for an injury report? If you even looking at, if I get an injury report of somebody and it's 2,000 pages, they're messed up. All right. Yeah. And it's just that simple. They're messed up. 2,000 pages is more than enough, but you still got to go through and prove this. You still got to go through. You got to talk about your anger. You got to talk about your depression. You got to talk about the tingly feeling you get in your body, your back aching, your feet hurt, your legs numb. Like, at what point do it stop? And it's not one of those, oh, I want to start a war with the NFL and I'm beefing with the NFL and I hate this. You have so many guys that's so salty behind great careers or great memories or the NFL giving you a segue and opening a gate to life. You got so many guys that's upset. You got so many guys that don't watch football, that don't participate. I'm not mad at the NFL. Like, I don't have a beef with the NFL. I just wish I would have ran out of bounds more. I wish I wouldn't have blocked at all. Like, you could have, I would have actually been okay with being, oh man, he was so soft. He always ran out of bounds. I never understood. Marvin Harrison used to catch the ball, and it's like, man, if he turn up, he gone. He just laid down. Yeah. Catch it, lay down. And you're like, damn, Marv could have had 10,000 more yards, but he did it his way. And I think it was the right way. Got out healthy, And I think that's what more players should strive to. We look at the NFL and say, oh, man, the NFL is so soft now and nobody get hit. Keep it up. Great work, young lads. Don't let them hit you. I would run out of bounds every time. I would run out of bounds and get out of the way. Somebody coming to tackle me, lay down. Slide like a quarterback.
Yeah. No, that's true. There's a reason why quarterbacks do it. Prolong their career. That's why they're playing longer than every other position. But I want to thank Clinton Portis for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. I want to thank everybody that continues to download, like, share, listen, and comment. Please let us know your comments today. Let us know what you think. Who's the greatest receiving core ever? Should Clinton Portis be in the Hall of Fame? My answer is yes. You let us know what you think. If you want endless Vikings talk, though, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube, where you can find all of our videos, all of our shows, instant podcasts after every single game, and all the Vikings press conferences delivering all the biggest news. Like our videos and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you and have a great day.